Hi everyone, Janie here. Welcome back to my garden. I'm actually in my back garden today. I am by my Vego raised beds. I call these the Vego beds area. And in this area last fall, I actually planted a whole bunch of Ranunculus corms. Here in my zone, my area, we plant Ranunculus in the fall because Ranunculus are very sensitive to heat. They start to go dormant at about 80 degrees. And so we have to plant them in the fall because they can't grow fast enough before our weather starts getting warm, too warm for the ranunculus. So if you live in a mild climate, you want to plant your ranunculus in the fall. If you live in more of a cooler climate, you want to wait until the spring because the cold will actually kill them over the winter. They'll actually get mushy and they won't grow. So I planted my ranunculus in the fall, and I actually went all out on my ranunculus this past year. Normally I get my ranunculus corms from like Costco or like a big box store or something like that. And they've always turned out beautifully. I've loved them. But I read a couple articles last year about buying really nice ranunculus corms. The difference between spending a little bit of extra money and buying what I'm calling the fancy ranunculus versus buying just the regular ranunculus. And every article that I read said how great really good corms were, what a difference it makes. So I wanted to try it this year, and boy, did it make a difference. My ranunculus show was absolutely incredible. I bought three different regions. I don't know how you say it. 3 different regions of ranunculus. They come from 3 different regions of the world. They come from France, they come from Italy, and there's also some that come from Japan. And so I got all 3 and I tried out all the different varieties, and I was so impressed with them. They were so wonderful. I ended up buying them from a flower farm called Fleur Farm. I'll put the link in the description down below. And the corms were huge. The flowers were massive. They were so incredibly beautiful, and it was so fun to have. But of course, now my ranunculus season is over. And so I've been letting my ranunculus corms kind of die back. I've been waiting for the plants to kind of get yellow so that they can soak in as much energy as they need. And I've decided to pull them and store them over the season until I can replant them in the fall. Now, the main question that I get whenever I do a video on pulling my ranunculus corms is people always ask, can't you just leave them in the ground? Can't you just leave them there and let them come back next season? And yes, I absolutely can. If I just cut back all of this foliage, the corms would be perfectly happy in the ground here, and then they would come back in the fall and I would have more ranunculus next season. However, this is kind of prime real estate for me. These raised beds are so nice because I don't have to bend over, and I don't really want to waste these beds and not have anything growing in them all season long because I left so many ranunculus corms in here. And yes, I could interplant them, but I just feel more comfortable just pulling them out. I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to cut back all the green foliage, or the foliage on them, and then I'm going to let them completely dry, and then I'm going to store them. Look at the ladybugs. Then I'm going to store them in a cool, dry place, and probably in some brown paper bags. Oh my gosh, I have so much ladybug activity going on here. Wow. So I definitely could absolutely leave these if I wanted to. But I don't know. I just feel more comfortable pulling them, and then I'm going to use this for other things. I'm not totally sure what I'm going to use them for yet. Over here, I ended up planting some Seascape strawberries that we have been eating on. They've been absolutely amazing. The chickens are enjoying them as well. Seascape are my absolute favorite strawberries. So this whole side is full. I'll probably put some tomatoes over there. I have found in my climate, we're so hot that I do need to give my tomatoes a little bit of afternoon shade. And so this area with the Chinese pistache right here is a perfect spot for tomatoes. So I think I will plant some tomatoes in this spot once I clean it out. Oh man, you guys, as I'm seeing this, look at that. So that right there is a ladybug larvae. Is that focused? There we go. That right there is a ladybug larvae. So if you see that, that is absolutely an amazing bug to have in your garden, because these ladybug larvae or lady beetle larvae, they eat more aphids, they eat more bugs than the adults do. So now that I'm seeing all this activity, I'm kind of, I'm hesitating. I can't leave this in. I can't leave all this in. Anyway, I'm thinking about leaving this in for all the ladybugs, but I can't leave all this in. So anyway, I'm planning to pull it out, and I will dust off all of the corms, and then I'll let them completely dry out before I actually end up storing them in those brown paper bags. So that's what I'm planning to do here, and then I'll have to rejuvenate the soil because the soil has dropped quite a bit. Back here, I have some carrots that are ready to get pulled, but I was looking here, I have a whole bunch of ladybug larvae on here as well. Where did it go? It was somewhere around here. There was a lot of activity on here. So I think I'm just going to leave these for now. I might pull out some. I have some storage, like I have a hydrangea right there. I do have this Victorian lady, flowering maple or a butylon, and she is just stunning. She is just stunningly beautiful. And I wasn't planning on leaving her here, but then I ended up liking it here so much, I think I am going to leave it here, which is too funny. And then over here, I have my gigantic geranium matarense. As you can see, this is very random, but I ended up just storing plants in these Vego beds until I could find another place for them. But this one is hopefully about to bloom pretty quickly, and it'll get this big giant pink bloom on top, which is going to be absolutely beautiful. And look at my pink lemonade honeysuckle. Doesn't that just look so good? I think I'm going to end up taking these out, and then I'll probably put them in my compost pile, my completely overstuffed compost pile. So at least once the larvae mature, they can fly to other parts of my garden. I think that's a good compromise. So anyway, I will be taking all of these corms out, and I am going to store them so that I can plant them for next year, because I did spend an extra amount of money on these fancy corms as opposed to just getting them at Costco or just getting them at the big box store. So I want to keep these, I want to save these, and it's really easy to save corms, ranunculus corms. So hopefully one year I can find a final resting spot for these corms, but this year is just not that year. And that's kind of how it is for the past couple of years. I haven't found the spot that I want to leave bulbs or leave corms in, just because I'm just figuring out my garden. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to keep my varieties separate because I kind of planted them right next to each other. I marked them with these slate markers. These are from hoselink.com, and look at how good the paint pen stayed on these. I'm really happy with this. I think I want to get more of these. These are great, but I want to make sure that I'm only grabbing the label violet right now, and I'm staying away from the bonbons, which are right here. So I can kind of see, like, this is the label right here, and that is the bonbon color. So I'm just trying to keep them a little bit separate. I'm sure I'm mixing some of them together, but I'm just trying to keep them separate so that I can keep my varieties separate. I think this goes over here. This is a giant weed. I think it goes like that. Yeah. So then what I do is I'm just pulling really gently, pulling one, shaking off the dirt. There you can see the corm right there. And as this dries out, all those roots are going to basically dry off, and I'll just be left with what looks kind of like a little shriveled octopus. And that is the corm that you're going to want to save over the season. So then I'm taking them over here, and I'm just cutting all of the foliage off, leaving about 1 inch of the foliage, the stem, so that I know where the top is. Just like that. And then I'm taking these over here and I'm keeping them in order. You can see on this potting table I have, these are all my Hanois, and I'm gonna let them dry here. These are all my Rosas. I'm gonna let them dry here. These are all my Poodle Ramillias. I'm gonna let them dry here. And then I will take these labels and I'll start lining them up under here just so that I can keep them organized and keep them straight. And ranunculus are cool in that they'll actually make babies. So you can pull up a clump, one clump that you planted last season, and sometimes you can actually separate them apart, and now you have 2 ranunculus corms that you can plant separately next season. So they basically just multiply, and then you have even more ranunculus every year. So that's one benefit of pulling them each year, is because then you can separate them and you get even more. If you leave them in, they'll just get bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually, you'll need to pull them up just so that you can divide them. All right, so I've got my beds all cleaned out of the ranunculus, and the ranunculus is drying. You can see it is noon right now, and you can see that the beds are pretty much in afternoon shade. I still have some sun up here on the front, but now that it's afternoon and the hottest part of the day, everything in here is going to be protected, which is kind of, like I said, prime real estate. It's actually a really, really good place in my garden for quite a lot of things, including tomatoes. So you can see how much the soil has dropped in here. I need to get soil. I only have 2 bags of soil left, so I'm gonna have to go to the store and get some more soil, but I will do that another day. Let me show you all of my corms that I have here. They're all nice and organized. Here are my Hanoi. These are beautiful and they are called cloney. Basically, they're clones of the mother, so they're true to form whenever you grow them, which is great. This is Rosa. This was probably one of my favorite. Just a true bubblegum pink, really beautiful. These were poodle ramilias. These were kind of weird. They were very fluffy. They were very, very interesting, but probably not my favorite. Under here was Bonbon, another pink one that I absolutely loved. And here was Labelle Violet, but unfortunately the color came out more of as like a burgundy red color. Still really pretty, but definitely not what this picture looked like. Then I ran out of room. What are you doing? Oh boy. What's going on, bud? You're ripping apart my garden lately. What's going on? Silly dog. I love you, but you're a pain in the butt. And then back here in this potting bench, I have 2 more varieties just because I ran out of room up front. These are Ariadne. These are the butterfly ranunculus, which are Japanese ranunculus, and they basically have that waxy look to the petals, which are really, they were very, very interesting. And you can see the corms are a lot bigger than the other kind of corms. And then finally right here we have Pom-Pom Magic that were very, very pretty as well. So these guys are going to dry. I could have come through and I could have washed these with a stream of water to clean them off and then dried them, but it's just as easy just to let them dry and then knock off the soil once they're dry. And then I wanted to show you guys my geraniums that are still propagating right here. I propagated these a couple months ago and they're almost ready. I'm just looking for signs of the roots coming out of these pots, and I don't see any roots quite yet, but they're very close and they're getting new foliage on them. These are the Martha Washington geraniums that I got from my friend Katie, and then right here these are the regular geraniums that I just propagated myself, and you can kind of see the color right there. And whenever you propagate, you do want to take off the flower because you don't want any of the energy going towards the flower buds. You want it all going towards the roots. So if you do see them start to flower, just make sure you take that off. All right, so my ranunculus is all done. It's laid out, drying. It's actually a pretty windy day today, so I think they're gonna dry pretty quickly. I'll probably come back in a couple days, brush off all the excess soil, and then store them in brown paper bags in a cool, dry place. I have a little cabinet in my kitchen that I actually like to store things like that in. My garage and my office just get a little too hot during the summer, so I think I'll keep them inside where we keep the air conditioning on pretty much all summer long. So I will keep them in storage until fall, and it's, I usually do around Halloween, maybe November, and then I will plant them back out, and then they'll start growing and they'll be able to bloom next spring. Again, I'm in a mild climate. I'm zone 9B. I think, this is off the top of my head, but I think it's anything zone 8 and above you can plant during the fall. Anything lower than that you want to plant during the spring after your last frost. But correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. You zone 7 gardeners if you can plant in the fall. But now that I'm done with that, I wanted to address some questions that I had, actually a lot of questions that I had about a video I posted last week where I was fertilizing my annuals with a hose end sprayer and my Proven Winners water-soluble fertilizer. I realized very quickly that I didn't address all the information in that video because I had a lot of questions in the comment section, and I even had questions from some friends and family in real life asking me to clarify some things. So I thought it would be important to come and to address those questions that I didn't address in last week's video. This was the same video that Monty got in trouble, just to remind you guys. So a lot of the questions were very similar, but they all kind of followed the same vein of what Higgins Angel wrote, and she said, question about your fertilizing. In your sprayer container, how much of the water soluble did you add? I know you mentioned 1 tablespoon per gallon, but I have no idea how much water runs through that thing. I seem to remember last year you put a whole bag of fertilizer in it, but I'm not sure. Lee Walker says, how much do you put in the sprayer and how often do you refill the sprayer with fertilizer? Barbara says, new gardener here. I've never used the sprayer for fertilizing before. How do you know when to add more? So it's a lot of the same type of question that I realized I didn't address. So how I do it, if I'm using the Miracle Grow, this sprayer right here, this sprayer doesn't have a dial on it, a concentration dial. And there is another hose end sprayer that I like to use, which is called the Ortho Dial and Spray. And that you can actually change the dilution concentration on that depending on what your fertilizer says on the back. So what you need to do is you need to find either your concentrate or your granular fertilizer, your water-soluble fertilizer. You can use a liquid in these things, but right now I have this powder, and you look on the back for the dilution ratio. And for the Proven Winners one, it says 1 tablespoon of Proven Winners premium water-soluble plant food with 1 gallon of water. Now, luckily, the Miracle Grow hose end sprayer that are very cheap to get, that is the dilution ratio that this thing uses. It's 1:1. If I was using the Ortho Dial and Spray, then I would just turn the dial until it said 1 tablespoon. And then I would know that that was 1 tablespoon of my concentrate for 1 gallon of water that comes through this container. So what happens is that you hook your hose up to the end of this hose end sprayer, and the water comes in and it comes down and it mixes in here, and that the amount of water that comes out here is equal to 1 tablespoon per 1 gallon of water. That's how these things work. That's how the dial and spray works. So if you were to use a concentrate, maybe like BT, that says 4 ounces of concentrate mixed with 1 gallon of water, then you would change the Ortho Dial and Spray to the 4 ounce mark. So it just depends on what kind of stuff you are using. Now, the other part of the question was, how much do you put in this thing right here? And you can basically put as much as you want. What I do is, in the Proven Winners containers, they come in bags. And luckily, these bags are the exact amount that can fit in this hose end sprayer. It's almost like they knew we were going to use these hose end sprayers. So I just cut this bag open and I just pour it all into the container right here, and then put it on and then connect it up to my hose and then start spraying. And you will see that the powder crystals are in here will start getting wet, and that's because the water is diluting those crystals, and then the water that's coming out has the concentrate in it at the right ratio. If I didn't have a whole bag, if I only had a half bag left, that would be perfectly fine. I could put a half a bag into here because the dilution ratio of this hose end sprayer is 1 tablespoon to 1 gallon. So it doesn't matter how much you put in if you're using this thing right here. It doesn't matter how much you put in, it's going to come out at the same dilution rate no matter how much is in there. Now, the second part of that question was, how do you know when to refill the sprayer? So what you're going to do is you have the concentrate in here, you have the powders in here, and it's going to start diluting with water. And you're going to see the powders are going to drop as you use it. It's going to get less and less and less. And what you want to do is you want to watch it as it comes out here. That's why this thing is clear. And once you don't see any more dry crystals in here, then you know that there's nothing else left to dilute. So however more you spray, you're going to have less and less concentrate, and you're going to get less and less diluted of the fertilizer. So what I do is I wait until I see no more dried crystals in here, and then I will add more. Now, luckily, the fertilizer will dye it kind of like a brownish bluish color. If you use pure Miracle Grow, then it's going to be blue, but it'll dye it a color. And after all of my crystals are gone, it'll still be the kind of the same color as it was before. So I know there's still some concentrate in there. And when you see it start getting faded, like not the same color, then you know there's nothing left. So the easy answer is you just watch until you don't see any more dry crystals in here, and then you add more dry crystals. But to get the biggest bang for your buck out of this, I just watch until it's faded in color and it's not the right color anymore. So that's how I do it. That's how I figure it out. If you're consistent with fertilizing, you don't worry about it too much. You're gonna get the fertilizer on. But if you use the Miracle-Gro, it's going to be in the right concentration that the Proven Winner stuff is. If you use the orthodilin spray, you just have to turn that dial until it says 1 tablespoon. So I hope that answers the majority of the questions that you have. Let's see. I know I had some other ones though. Jana says, I could not find the PW water-soluble fertilizer on Amazon. I'm sorry. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not there, but Garden Answer does sell it on their website. And I was talking to someone this weekend who says that it's actually a really good price on their website and they found it cheaper on their website than they did actually in the stores. So check the Garden Answer website. That's another place that you can find it. But I have gotten it off Amazon a lot, and I know Robbie gets his off Amazon too. A. Beering says, can the plants take up nutrition by spraying the leaves or only through the roots? Your yard has turned beautiful so quickly. Thank you. It would be fun to see a side-by-side from when you first moved in. That's a good idea. I should do that. So it depends. To answer the question, can the plants take up nutrition by spraying the leaves of plants or only through the roots? That depends on your fertilizer again. If you have what's called a foliar fertilizer, then you actually do want to spray the foliage. You want to spray the foliage, and that's how it's going to take it up. A foliar fertilizer, you can spray the foliage or you can spray the roots, the root area of the soil, and it's going to get it either way. Proven Winners is a foliar fertilizer, but they do recommend focusing it on the root area where the plant is growing. Miracle-Gro is a foliar fertilizer, so you can spray that. But if you use anything else, you have to kind of check and see if it's a foliar fertilizer. I don't know if seaweed extract is a foliar fertilizer. Maybe somebody can answer that. Maybe I can look it up real quick. Hold on. Yes, seaweed extract can be used as a foliar fertilizer. So yeah, so you kind of just want to watch something like that. You can just kind of Google whatever type of fertilizer you're using and see if it is a foliar fertilizer. But most water-soluble fertilizers are I find to be foliar fertilizers, which is why I just spray the foliage. It's the easiest for me, and my plants actually do like it. Okay, next question was from Becca. She says, Janie, what do you actually put in the sprayer part? The granules with some water, how does that work? I've been thinking of getting a sprayer for my fish emulsion, but I don't understand the ratios and how to make that all work. So again, I just put these granules, this bag, into here, and you can add water to this thing once you put the powder in. You can add water, and what that's going to do is that's going to immediately start with the correct ratio of the water that you're spraying out. It's going to have the fertilizer in it. If you don't add water, it's going to take some time of spraying until this gets wet, and then eventually it's going to start coming out. So you can add water or not add water. It's kind of up to you. If you want to get some fish emulsion, what you need to do is you need to look on the back of the package of the fish emulsion fertilizer. And if it says 1 tablespoon to 1 gallon, then you can use the Miracle-Gro hose end sprayer. If it says like 4 ounces per gallon, then you need to get yourself a orthodilin spray so that you can change the concentrate of the hose end sprayer. I hope that makes sense, Becca. And then finally, Kimberly asked, how can I tell, this isn't really about fertilizing, but I wanted to answer it. Kimberly says, how can I tell if what is chewing on my annuals is budworms or slugs? I am north of Atlanta, zone 8A, and I'm noticing some holes in my petunias and in leaves of dahlias. I put Sluggo Plus in the pots. Will that kill both slugs and budworms? No, it won't. Sluggo Plus will kill earwigs and pillbugs and the slugs and snails. The only thing that's going to kill the budworms is if you spray BT. So the way that I would figure it out is depending on your temperature. And you can ask your local extension office or your local master gardeners when the slugs and snails are common in your area and when they go away. And I kind of find that if we have slugs and snails, we don't have budworms yet. If we have budworms, it's too hot for the slugs and snails. So depending on the temperature you have right now, that's what should kind of guide you in the direction of knowing whether or not you have slugs or whether or not you have budworms. It sounds to me like you have slugs. It sounds like just the leaves of the dahlias. The budworms won't really get on the leaves of the dahlias. It sounds like you have slugs or pincher bugs or earwigs or something like that. So I would go with the Sluggo Plus, and then I would wait a little bit until it gets a little bit hotter before you start really looking for signs of budworms. Another way that you can tell is if you see little slime trails. Slugs and snails will leave little slime trails. If there are holes in the middle of leaves and the holes are ragged and have ragged edges, that's usually a sign of earwigs. And so there's a lot of different ways that you can deal with earwigs, but Sluggo Plus, not regular Sluggo, will help you deal with earwigs. So I hope that helps, Kimberly. So anyway, I hope that this little mini question and answer session on fertilizing helps all of you that were confused about my last video. Sorry that I didn't explain all of it. I feel like I just do it so often that it's like it's ingrained in my brain and I don't even think about it anymore, but I can completely get how this can be confusing. So hopefully this helps all of you. And I hope that this encourages you guys to fertilize your plants. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this and I hope you all have a chance to get in your garden today.